Hello and welcome back to Driving the Wild Side, where today I'm going to be looking at first classics. Now, my logic here is that cars over 40 years old are tax and MOT exempt, which will save you money, which is great news for younger drivers. So, if you are keen to get in on this, here are a few cool options that you might want to consider. First up on the list is the Volkswagen Beetle, the most popular classic car. 21 million of these have been sold over the years. And what's cool about the Beetle is it's basically a blank canvas, so you can turn it into a race car, you can turn it into a rally car, and you can buy plenty of kits to turn this into a sort of cool sports car if you want. And notably, you can even turn it into a beach buggy. And luckily, because they're so popular, they're still fairly cheap. Around £5,000 will get you this lovely rust-free Beetle, from South Africa in fact. This is officially the UK's most popular classic, with over 25,000 of these currently registered on UK roads. This is also available in a hatchback, which makes it very practical. However, it is only a two-seater. It is sort of the classic equivalent to the Mazda MX-5. However, it only gets to 60 in 11 seconds. Nonetheless, it is still a really cool car if you want to get into classic track racing. In fact, here is an early one with low miles that I found for just over £5,000. This is the Ford Cortina. The Ford Cortina obviously was a very popular car back in the day. If you'd have watched Grand Tour, you'll probably know why. In fact, this car has got such a big cult following that there aren't that many of them. I mean, they are rear-wheel drive, they're very practical, and even came in the States. However, you'll probably struggle to find a UK market one for £5,000, so I would suggest looking around for South African imports if you can. Here is a 1970s Mark III, or you can go for the Mark IV. This is British Leyland's alternative to the Ford Escort, a car which has skyrocketed in value in recent years. However, these have sort of flown under the radar and are still very cheap. They're rear-wheel drive and perfect for historic track racing and rallying as well. They even had a starring role in British crime show The Professionals. £5,000 will get you into a 1.8 with very low miles. Maybe the MG wasn't for you. You probably wanted something a bit more economical and more sleek, in which case I would advise that you take the Triumph Spitfire. It only has 71 horsepower, but it's got a 1.5 litre engine compared to the MG's 1.8, and therefore it is cheaper to insure. However, it's not very reliable, and it is also highly prone to rust. Running examples can be found for less than £3,000. 2.5 million people bought these back in the day. 2.5 million people walked into a French dealership asking, "Avez-vous un nouveau Citroën GS?" And it sold like hotcakes. This thing was very popular back in the day. It was a great family car. It did very well as a sort of historic rally car. And, well, it never competed in WRC, but this was awesome. In fact, you can even drive this thing on 3 wheels thanks to it having the same hydropneumatic suspension that you get in the DS. These cars are luckily still fairly cheap as they are overshadowed by the DS. This is the sort of car you'd want to buy if you were very keen to impress your dad, or your granddad for that matter. This car has a huge cult following in Britain, and that's partly down to the fact that its predecessor, the P5, was owned by Queen Elizabeth, and this thing will just make such an entrance at your school, and it's the sort of car that you'd look at and you'd want to salute it. Rust is a problem and the engines aren't that reliable. I bet nobody expected this car to be on the list of first cars, but it is. You can get for your first car a Porsche with pop-up headlights, rear-wheel drive and a Stuttgart shield on the front as your first car. Luckily this thing isn't that expensive as it shares a lot of parts with Volkswagens and Audis, so it's not going to be that expensive to fix. If you want one though, you better be quick because these are on the rise as we speak. And last but not least, to keep stuff interesting, this car is basically the predecessor to the Audi Quattro. I can't really find many videos of this car, it's not that popular, and as a result it's fairly cheap, and it's also a pretty good alternative if you couldn't get your hands on a cheap E30 BMW. Buy this little car for £4,000 and you will have an Audi as your first car. And on that note, thank you very much for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed today's content. Please like and subscribe for more in the future, and until next time, goodbye.